Our pesky storm continues. It's going to be a cold weekend and then gradually warming up next week. More snowfall reports coming in out of northern Minnesota. Substantial snow, too, for some places. 15 inches in Silver Bay and Hovland. A lot of 6 to 8 inch reports across northeastern Minnesota in particular. And as far south as basically Brainerd, at least a few inches of slushy snow. But, you know, again, it's normal to get snow in April. We just really want it to end this year after the long snow season. A lot of water, too. 1 to 2 inches widespread of liquid equivalent. Of course, pretty much all rain in southern Minnesota. And that's why those river levels are just going to stay high here for a while. And another thing yesterday, falling loons in northern Wisconsin. Yeah, with the icing conditions we saw around Lake Superior in northern Wisconsin, loons were seen falling out of the sky. You know, just like a plane needs to be de-iced, loons do too, except of course they can't. You get this clear icing that we saw, and that affects the shape of a wing, and that affects how a plane can fly and have enough lift. And for loons, it's sort of a similar thing. And if they get too much ice, of course, they fall to the ground because loons can't walk or perch in a tree and wait out a storm. They need to fly or swim. So they're just stuck in that really bad spot yesterday, following the lake ice outs and that ice that we saw across the northern parts of Wisconsin, Minnesota. It's mostly snow today, and you can actually see, this is an image from earlier just showing you how these snow showers are spinning around that low center, which was right on top of northeastern Minnesota, and it's going to very slowly move. Talked about this yesterday. We're going to see this cutoff low. Well, the surface low and the upper air low are basically on top of each other. We call that vertically stacked, and it just means there's not a whole lot to move this thing along. So it's going to be a slow crawl out of here through the weekend. And we're going to add to the mix today some instability. It's so cold aloft that with peaks of sun today even, it's going to be relatively much warmer, more moist at the surface. So that produces these bursts of snow and rain showers, similar to how thunderstorms form, just on a shallower scale. So you're going to see these quick bursts of snow in spots. That means maybe even a brief slushy coating of grass, of snow on the grassy areas rather, but then it'll melt pretty quickly. But we are talking probably a couple more inches of snowfall on top of the snow in north central Minnesota. And of course, below normal, temperatures about 10 to 20 degrees below normal across the state today, tomorrow, probably into Sunday too. And we really want warm weather at this point in the season. So the cold is what we notice and what we really are locked in on in our head. But a reminder that the warmth we had last week was twice as warm as the cold is below normal. So about 15 degrees below normal on these cold temperatures, but the warmth was more than double that from normal. So this is much more normal than what we had last week, even though many of us would prefer last week. So there's the cold we had at the beginning of the month, and these are showing those temperature anomalies difference from normal from last week, and then back to where we are now. So we're still running 2.5 degrees above normal for the month of April because that heat just has outweighed the cold. And it is sticking around through the weekend. We modify those temperatures back to the 50s, still overall a little bit below normal next week, but 50s getting closer to 60. And then another storm system will bring in maybe some colder air again to end next week. We're talking about another one of these potentially slow-moving cutoff upper lows developing where we see rain and snow showers, yes, spin around this thing. This time it looks like more in the form of rain, even in northern Minnesota. We'll see how much cold can get in. But so this is just the process we go through in the spring where these cutoff lows are basically, think of them as shrapnel or splinters left of the Arctic air, and they create these slow-moving storm systems, and eventually we heat them all up, burn through them all, and then summer hits. But yeah, we got a couple more of those. And eventually, again, warmer, but pretty chilly here through the weekend with still some flurries tomorrow for especially northern Minnesota.